Double honest dudes, Yahweh by Shempa Mashiach.
That's facing the wrong way. There you go. All praise.
Let's go. All praise and double honest dudes, Yahweh by Shempa Mashiach. Malak Yahweh Shai. The second service will be reading Philemon. All right. Can you Google the word Philemon by sure? Google Philemon. I believe that's the Greek word.
That was goofy. All right, Philemon. Slock.
Are we like you want the Hebrew or I think it's a Greek word. Oh, you want me to pull up what it means? What it means, So go to the blue letter, right? This is a mighty word. This is a mighty book, actually. Within Philemon, this letter speaks about being your brother's keeper, forgiveness, among many other things. But like anything else we read, we just want to know the background and the name of the book that we're reading. That's precepts on that. So Philemon, one who kisses, all right? Friendly. So that's pretty much what it means. And that's what's being displayed in this letter. Paul is showing a great act of kindness and friendliness and affection towards his brothers. He's mending two brothers together. Can you bring out Matthew, the 5th chapter? Bob, for sure. Matthew, the 5th chapter, and you get the 5th verse.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 5, and verse 5. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Go ahead.
Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see the Most High. Blessed are the peacemakers.
Blessed are the what?
Blessed are the peacemakers.
That's what Paul is doing in the letter of Philemon. He's being a peacemaker. And the Lord said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. So that's definitely something that you can learn from reading Philemon. And we're going to read it together through the Spirit. It's only about 25 verses, and that's okay. And I want to read this, I want to read this quick portion in my Bible. Right? It says, does Christian brotherly love really work, even in situations of extraordinary tension and difficulty? Will it work, for example, between a prominent slave owner and one of his runaway slaves? Paul, it's like here. It says, Paul has no doubt. He writes a postcard to Philemon, his beloved brother and fellow worker, on behalf of Onesimus, a deserter thief for much. It's like for merely a worthless slave. But now Philemon's brother in Christ, with much tact and tenderness, Paul asks Philemon to receive Onesimus back with the same gentleness with which he would receive Paul himself. Any debt Onesimus owes, Paul promises to make good. Knowing Philemon, Paul is confident that brotherly love and forgiveness will carry the day. Since this letter is addressed to Philemon, in verse 1, it becomes known as Philemona, to Philemon. So that's pretty much what this entire chapter is about. But of course, we're going to bring out precepts and points.
I had a precept real quick. Go to Genesis 45, start at verse 1.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 45, and verse 1.
Right?
Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him.
Right, so this is Joseph getting ready to reveal himself to his brothers. Because remember, they sold Joseph as a slave in Egypt. Right? He was sold as a slave in Egypt and dwelt there for a dispensation of time. I want to say like 13 years off the top, but he was, or actually longer, but he was in Egypt for a while, haven't seen his brothers. So now he's going to make himself known because he was unrecognizable. Because, in Egypt, they had go bald, they had makeup, different things. So he was like the Egyptian, basically. But keep reading.
And he cried.
And he what?
And he cried.
And he cried, man. Right? Keep reading.
Cause every man to go out from me.
Right? He said, get everybody out of here. Right? Keep reading.
And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren.
Right? So he made himself known. He said, this is me. This is your brother. Right? So he's reuniting with his brothers. I jump down. You can read this account on your own time, but jump down to verse 14.
Verse 14. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck
Right?
and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck.
Right? Keep reading.
Moreover, he kissed all his brethren.
He did what?
He kissed all his brethren.
He kissed all his brethren. So when it says one who kisses, that's that friendly, brotherly love and that gesture. Right? It's nothing effeminate or, strange about that. What's strange is the laws of this land and their culture.
That's right, brother.
Right? But with the Lord set up for his people, loving their brothers, greeting each other with a holy kiss, that's actually how the Israelites got down, right? Right? Keep reading.
And wept upon them. And after that, his brethren talked with him.
You see that? So he kissed all his brethren, and they was hugging each other, crying, right? Just because he embraced his brothers, right? So that's why I say it's one who kisses and is going into being friendly. Our forefathers, they was known for doing this, right?
Yeah, point.
That's plain. Can we,
Yeah, point two.
gone.
Can I get a quick precept? 2 John 1 and verse 5 through 6. Bring that up.
2 John 1, verse 5. And now I beseech thee, lady, not as though I wrote a new commandment unto thee, but that which we have from the beginning, that we love one another.
Continue.
And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye have heard from the beginning, ye shall walk in it.
So my brother was bringing up that point from the beginning. Back in the time of Joseph, we had the concept of loving your brother. From the beginning of time, the main sin that Cain went off on was not loving his brother. Brother Scott.
That's right.
I have another precept. In Genesis 27. Genesis 27, start at verse 26.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 27, and verse 26. And his father Isaac said unto him,
What's that one?
Come near now, and kiss me, my son.
He said, do what?
Come near now, and kiss me, my son.
He said, come near now and kiss me, my son. Right? See, Jake, it's a photo of Peter and Paul. Right? So Jake might see this and kind of think, well, hold on, what's going on? Right? No, this love right here, man. But you got to kind of love your brother, man. Right? Embrace your brother. Right? Keep reading.
And he came near and kissed him.
Right? He kissed his son, man. Right? In righteousness. It's okay to love your brother. Right? Keep reading.
And he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field, which the Lord hath blessed.
So that's it on that. So I'm going to actually read this. When you look into holy kiss, it says the kiss of peace. Right? Where it says the kiss of peace is an ancient traditional Christian greeting. Right? Talking about the Israelites. Also called the holy kiss and sometimes brother kiss among men or the sister kiss among women. Such greetings signify a wish and blessing that peace be with the recipient, and besides their spontaneous uses, they have certain ritualized and formalized uses long established in liturgy. Many denominations use other forms of greetings besides literal kisses to serve equivalent purposes. These include handshakes, gestures, and hugs, any of which may be called a sign of peace. The history of it is widespread custom in the ancient Western Mediterranean for men to greet each other with a kiss. That was also a custom in ancient Judea and practiced also by Christians. You see that? So our forefathers was known for doing this, man, greeting each other with that brother's kiss, that sign of peace. Right? That don't mean you kind of, doing God knows what, but just a little, peck on the cheek, whatever, man. Through the spirit, huh?
God.
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick, they still do that in the Italian culture.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Watch Godfather. I believe they did in that movie. Growing up in this Western world, they perverted a lot of things. They made things real off. So much so, you can't even give a brother a holy kiss. Try to give a brother a holy kiss in the truth. He gonna ball up his fist. And he gonna have an evil eye towards you. In the ancient world, brothers give a holy kiss. Can you get Luke 7 and 45? And if you think that's off, hold up. First, can you go to Luke 7 and 23? If you think that's off, we got some words for you.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 7, and verse 23. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me.
So blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in Yahweh. Can you get Luke 7:45?
It's the book of Luke, chapter 7, verse 45. Thou gavest me no kiss.
What'd he say?
Thou gavest me no kiss.
So Yahweh expected a kiss from his own brothers. What else he said?
But this woman, since the time I came in, had not ceased to kiss my feet.
Mm-hmm.
My head with oil thou didst not anoint, but this woman anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven. For she loved much, but to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little.
And again, that's just affection, right? Fathers, yeah, kiss their son on the forehead or their cheek. Brothers don't say, oh, no, that's good. Oh, you off, brother. Hold up, Leviticus 18, brother. Brother's mind is simple. That's simple. That's off. So, you know, we gotta cover it. We gotta cover it, all right? We gotta touch on all points. Lest brothers be thinking perverted things. I don't want to do that. I don't know. I'm nervous. God. Talking about I'm nervous.
How you get Mark 10 and verse 15 through 16?
It's the book of Mark, chapter 10, verse 15. Verily I say unto you, whosoever shall not receive the kingdom of the Most High as a little child, he shall not enter therein.
Because little children are pure, and that's why the Lord compared us to be like unto a little child. You know, the Lord said we gotta love one another purely, unfeigned. You know, you gotta.
And he took them up in his arms and put his hands upon them and blessed them. And when he was gone forth into the way, there came one running and kneeled to him and asked him, Good master.
So he put his hands upon them, around them, and basically he hugged them. You know, a lot of brothers, especially in WFI Detroit, we hug each other. You know, so that's love. That's showing affection. That's showing love. You know, but also say you got to do it with a good heart, because you can get Luke 22 and verse 48. It's all about, you know, you coming in that sincere spirit. You know.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 22 and verse 48. But Yahushua said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss?
With a what?
With a kiss?
With a what?
With a kiss?
You know, because it was common amongst them to kiss each other. So he basically, you know, Yahushua was expecting that kiss, like the brother said. But, you know, Judas had that different spirit on that, spirit of Satan on him. And he betrayed the Lord, you know. But even though Judas betrayed the Lord still called him a friend. He knew he was going to betray him. He still called him like friend. So he basically showed that integrity. He showed that sincerity, dealing with him still, you know. So you got, I got one last one. 1 Timothy 1 and verse 5.
It's the book of 1 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 5. Now the end of the commandment is charity, out of a pure heart.
Out of a what?
Out of a pure heart, and of a good conscience, and of faith unfeigned.
You go into that word unfeigned is pure, you know, without hiding, you know. So that's what I just wanted to bring out real quick. You got it, bro.
That's right. You can get Sirach 39 to 27.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 39, and verse 27.
You know.
All these things are for good to the godly. So to the sinners, they are turned into evil.
Right. Now this is turned into lasciviousness. Now, like, even the flag, right? The rainbow flag, to us, we know what it means. We know what it represents. That's a holy covenant, Genesis 9 and 13. But now, the sinners, they saw that. Now they tried to corrupt it and pervert it. And to them, it means a whole nother thing. So, there's a lot of things that are good to the godly, but to the sinner, and we know who runs this world, Esau. The sinners, they perverted it, and we raised up in a society, and now we think how they think, and now we're moving how they move. Well, not anymore, right? Those days are long gone. We're all in the truth. We're all mature, right? We're all spiritually matured as well to know what's good and what's righteous. So with that, we can dive into Philemon. first chapter, the first verse.
It's the book of Philemon, chapter 1 and verse 1. Paul, a prisoner of Yahushua Mashiach, Timothy, our brother, unto Philemon, our dearest beloved and fellow laborer, and unto our beloved Epipha, and our Archippus, our fellow soldier, and to the church in thy house. Grace to you and peace from the God our Father and from the Lord Yahushua Mashiach.
So remember, this is a letter, right? Understand that this is a letter. It's not necessarily technically a book, but more so a letter. In a letter, there's formalities and there's a certain structure. So he's giving an introduction. Shalom, peace be unto y'all. This is Paul. For lack of a better word, shout out to this brother and this brother. Everybody that be in the house. May the Most High bless y'all. This is beautiful, right? He's starting a beautiful letter, an introduction.
So like I just wanted to point out that it said Philemon, he was a fellow laborer, so he was in the work with Paul. That's why he said this is Paul and Timothy writing a letter to Philemon, bless your house, like the brother went into. But I wanted to point out that he was doing the work. You can bring it up. Or you can keep reading.
Verse 4. I thank Yahweh, making mention of thee always in my prayers. Hearing,
It's like he told him, I'm always praying for you, man. You gotta pray for your brother. Right? Bring it up.
hearing of thy love and faith, which thou hast toward the Lord Yahushai and towards all saints, that the communication of thy faith may become effectual by the acknowledging of every good thing which is in you in Hamashiach Yahushai. For we have a great joy and consolation in thy love, because the bowels of the saints are refreshed by thee, brother.
Right, so he kind of bigging him up, man. Right? He bigging the brother up, like, he telling him about the mighty works he's doing, man. It's mighty right there.
And again, this all leads up to a point, right? He said, look, I know you mighty in this, you're doing this, it's beautiful, right? He's leading up to a point. Like any other story or any other letter, it leads up to a certain point. We're about to get to that point soon. You continue.
Verse 8, wherefore, though I might be much bold in Hamashiach to enjoin thee that which is convenient, yet for love's sake I rather beseech thee, being such a one as Paul, the aged and now a prisoner of Yahushua Mashiach, I beseech thee for my son Osimius, whom I have begotten in my bonds.
Right, now he's getting to the crux of the matter. Right, he's getting to the main topic, the main point, which is Onesimus. He's saying, hey, I got Onesimus in my bonds. I got some more to discuss with you. What's going on? And he's going to address it, right?
Verse 11, which in time past was to thee unprofitable, but now profitable to thee and to me, whom I have sent again. Thou therefore receive him, that is my own bowels.
So like he basically trying to say, Onesimus, he was unprofitable to you at one point, but he's profitable unto me now, so you receive him like you will receive me. That's pretty much what he's saying. He can't think of it, putting a stamp on it. I can't think of where you give somebody credit or whatever the case may be. I can't think of the exact phrase, but that's what he basically doing.
Credit is due.
Yeah, or not necessarily that, but when you kind of basically putting it on, like, you use your name to help somebody else out. He kind of doing that. It's a phrase for I can't think of it, but yeah, he kind of giving him some kind of reference kind of thing, right? But you keep reading, or unless brothers have a point on it.
And you can get Ecclesiastes 7:1.
Yeah, that's what it is. Vouching. He vouching for him.
That's right. So, they both know, they're both on the same agreement that, hey, he was unprofitable. He was doing something not too right. So now that he was in Paul's bonds, through the Spirit that Paul was kind of, giving him words of wisdom and counsel. It doesn't have to say, well, Paul gave him words of wisdom. We know through the Spirit. If you're around Paul, you're going to be in the Spirit. If you was around any other apostle, you're going to be in the Spirit. You best believe they're going to give you wise counsel and judgment. So you can bring out Ecclesiastes 7:1.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7 and verse 1. A good name is better than a precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth.
So Paul is restoring Onesimus' name. He's saying, hey, Philemon, I know y'all have faults, but listen, It's cool now. The brother, he's in the spirit. All right? I received him. Now you got to receive him, but now you have to receive him back. Go ahead.
Verse 2. It is better to go in the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting.
Oh, slide. You can go back to Philemon.
Oh, Philemon? Alright.
All
It's
right.
the book of Philemon, chapter 1, and verse 12. Whom I have sent again, thou therefore receive him, that is my own bowels. Verse 13. Whom I will have retained with me, that in thy stead he might have ministered unto me in the bonds of the gospel.
Right.
But without thy mind would I do nothing, that thy benefit should not be as it were of necessity, but willingly. For perhaps thee therefore departed for a season, that thou shouldest receive him forever.
Right, receive him forever. Onesimus left for a certain reason. He left for a certain reason, and we'll further discuss as we continue. But nevertheless, understand that Paul is building a bridge that was burnt. And this is beautiful because we can apply this to our life. There may have been situations where a bridge may have been burnt between brothers, but now it can be reconciled. And in fact, you can bring out Sirach. Let's pull it out. Bear with me. This is Sirach 22 and 22.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 22 and verse 22. If thou had opened thy mouth against thy friend, fear not, for there may be a reconciliation, except for upbraiding, or pride, or disclosing of secrets, or a treacherous wound. For these things every friend will depart.
Right, every friend will depart. Now again, it must not have been that big for Paul to kind of say, well, look, take Onesimus back. But regardless, he still had to go back because that was his servant. And just because we read in the beginning where it says slave, you can't think of slave as like, Philemon was just beating his back in and was doing atrocities to him. He was treating him in righteousness. When you read Exodus, the 21st chapter, it teaches you how to treat your servants.
Right, you get that.
And yep. We about to you can get straight to the point. You can get Exodus 21. And Paul was actually keeping the law, because it also mentions if someone runs away, you gotta kind of, you gotta report that. You can get Exodus 21 and where do I want? This is all good. You start at verse 1.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 21 and verse 1. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant.
If thou what?
If thou buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years shall he serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him.
Right. So as you continue to read, it goes over the do's and don'ts of having a servant. Right? Whether you have a kid or a wife, this must follow. What if he doesn't, this must follow, so on and so forth. And for you to become a servant in the ancient world, you may have to pay off a debt, or whatever the case is. You just working for him. So that's how one will become a servant. And a lot of Christians and Muslims, they'll read Philemon or use Philemon as a device to say, well, look, the Bible promotes hardcore slavery. Well, we don't. Exodus 21 literally teaches that. Right? You can't smite a servant that he bleeds. You can't do those things. But what it does say is this. You can get Sirach 33. I believe that's 14.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 33 and verse 14. Good is said against evil, and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly.
You can jump down to 24. That's what I want.
Verse 24. Fodder a wine, and burdens are for the ass, and bread, correction, and work for a servant.
Right? Those things are fitted for a servant. Because sometimes, not every servant is going to be moving in the spirit. Some servants are going to be off. Some servants are going to be wicked. Right? So there are certain things that have to be set in place to prevent that servant from going off, such as correction and more burdens. You Continue.
Verse 25. If thou send a servant to labor, thou shalt find rest. But if thou shalt let him go idle, he shall seek liberty.
He shall seek liberty. Right, that's playing upon tables. Go ahead.
Verse 26. A yoke and a collar do bow the neck. So are tortures and torments for an evil servant.
Now, you can't run with that and take that out of context and think you get to light them on fire and do perverted stuff. It's again just saying more burdens. It's another way of saying more burdens. You can't torture your brother. That's wicked. Go ahead.
Verse 27. Send him to labor, that he be not idle, for idleness teacheth much evil.
And what does he say after that?
Set him to work, as is fit for him. If he be not obedient, put on more heavy fetters.
Put on more heavy fetters. And we're going to jump back to Sirach 33, right? Because we're going to kind of line it up with Philemon. Before we go continue, you got a point? Precept?
I had a few precepts.
You got it.
Like you can go to Exodus 21, verse number 26,
It's the book of Exodus chapter 21 and verse 26.
right?
And if a man smite the eye of his servant,
And if a man smite the eye of his servant, read,
or the eye of his maid,
right?
that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake.
Right, so if you kind of smite his eye or do too damn much, you gotta let that servant free. You gotta let him go now, right? Keep reading.
Verse 27. If he smite out his man's servant too, or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake.
And you see that? Because letting him go free is because, again, this applies to when people owes debts and things of that nature. It will sell themselves. That's why it says, you'll be sold to your enemies and nobody will buy you because nobody's going to redeem you because you can buy your brother out of slavery. So you're losing out on money and certain things when you got to let them go free. So that's actually a judgment. It's deeper than just letting go. A slave is not even free labor. They're working off something. Right? So get Leviticus 25 and start at verse 39. I got
It's the book of Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 39.
right?
And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant.
You see that? So the Lord is saying, if your brother waxes poor and he sells himself to you, don't compel him. Don't make him a bond servant. Don't make him a slave man. Right? But read.
But as an hired servant,
But you make him like a hired servant. Because it's different laws against, bond servants versus hired servants or sojourners. Right? You reading?
and as a sojourner he shall be with thee, and shall serve thee into the year of Jubilee.
Right? You reading?
And then he shall depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return.
You see that? So after he serves that time, he gets to go back to his home. You can't just kind of hold somebody and force them to be with you. Unless they want to be, that's when you put the oil in their ear. Right? That's in Exodus 21. Right? But let's get an example of that. Get Luke chapter 15 and 11.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 15 and verse 11.
Right?
And he said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me a portion of the goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living.
Right?
And not many days after, the young son gathered all together, and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living.
Right? So basically, he gave 2 sons some money, gave them an inheritance, and one went and spent and blew all his money. Living a riotous living, man. Reveling, partying, prostitutes, drugs, whatever, man. They had drugs in the ancient world. We had a lesson on. Right, so all hell was breaking loose. He spent all his substance. Right, keep reading.
Verse 14, and when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want.
Right, in want meaning he didn't have. Right, he was in want. Like he didn't have anything. He was a famine. He's starving. He has no money. Right, keep reading. He's waxing poor. Right, keep reading.
Verse 15, and he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country.
Right, so he joined himself, meaning he became a sojourner or a hired servant to somebody in that country. This is an example of that. You wax poor, so you will sell yourself as a slave. Right, keep reading.
And he sent him into the fields to feed swine.
Right, so he kind of gave him the damn, a servant's job. He kind of had him feeding swine, man. Right, so that's an example of your brother waxing poor and him selling himself to be a servant. But you don't, again, treat him bad or crazy, because he even says that in, that's the precept I was thinking about, I think Colossians. Yeah. In Colossians.
You want to go there?
Yeah.
So, book Colossians chapter 3 and verse 22. Servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing Yahweh.
Right, so it says, servants, you have to obey your masters. Now jump to 4 and 1.
So, book Colossians chapter 4 and verse 1. Masters, give unto your servants that which is just and equal.
You see that? So hold on, right? Because, you got, Bible thumpers, these people who have no idea what's going on. They'll read that, say, see slavery. Servants, obey your masters. But hold on, it said you got to give your servants what's just and equal. Right? So you had the so-called white man who had a bunch of Jake, right, who spoke Hebrew, and kind of forced him to speak English, and they was reading certain verses and taking some out. That's why you got something called the slave Bible. And they didn't keep 4 and 1 in there. Do you think they read this whole thing to them, or they only read 3 and 22? The first part, it says, servants, obey your masters. Close the book and start whooping them, call them a nigga. Right? Now, they didn't keep reading where it says, masters, you have to give them what's just and equal. Right? You reading in there?
Knowing that ye also have a master in heaven.
Right? This is basically saying, as a servant, you have to obey your masters. And this is talking about in the church sense, to where you got bishops and deacons, and they would have to, follow the order, basically. But the masters or the leader of the church, they would, have to rule in the right spirit, because they got a master that they should be following. Right? So that burden is upon them. Right? But even on this level, it's literally servants and masters, because you sell yourself as a slave. So you would have to still treat them just and equal, because you got a master at the end of the day. We all got one master at the end of the day. That's just, the order of things on the earthly, in the earthly realm. That's all I wanted to bring out, to show how, how the law actually work when it comes to being a Hebrew servant. Because I'm missing this, he must have waxed poor, sold himself to Philemon.
That's it. I had a quick one.
You can get Galatians 3 and 28. That's why Paul was speaking about there's neither bond or free.
That's a good point.
So, book of Galatians chapter 3 and verse 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female. For all ye are one in Hamashiach Yahushua.
And that's why Paul said, I speak to them that know the law, because that's according to the law. You're not supposed to treat your brother unfairly, even though he's a servant, And then I want to get Hebrews 13 and verse 17.
It's the book of Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 17. Obey them that have rule over you, and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls.
So they what?
For they watch for your souls.
So even the church leaders or the masters, you're supposed to watch over brothers, over brothers that's newer in the faith. Watch over brothers' souls. Right, you got it.
As they must give account, that they may do it with joy and not with grief.
And that's why Paul is doing this in Philemon, because the Lord set him at a certain height in a certain position in Israel, that he had to give account of other brothers and other sisters. He was accountable for other people. So it's a lot of responsibility with leadership. Everybody want to be a leader, but you got a harsher responsibility. It's a lot that come with being a leader, and that's where read about that in James. But if you want to be a teacher, it's a lot that come with being a teacher. Right, so you got it.
For that is unprofitable for you.
So you're supposed to be that leader with joy. You don't want to be a leader. That's why David said a leader is supposed to be just. I believe that's 2 Samuel 23. Let me see. Give me 1 minute.
precept too.
Salaki. I got a precept if you want to wait till you find that one. Come, you go. Yeah, just get Matthew 20 and 25. Really, start at 21.
It's the book of
So
Matthew.
like, start at 20. Get this whole little roll. Make this point.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 20 and verse 20.
Right?
Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him.
Right?
And he said unto her, What wilt thou?
Like, what do you want? What's going on? Right? Can you read it?
She saith unto him, Grant that these my two sons may sit, one on the right hand and the other on the left in thy kingdom.
Right, so basically she's like, I want my sons to be sitting right next to you in the kingdom. I want them to have that same glory that you got. Right? Can you read it?
But Yahushua answered and said, You know not what ye ask.
What'd he say?
You know not what ye
He
ask.
said, you don't know what you asking for, man. You know what comes with this? With being in this kind of position? That's what he's saying, right? Can you read it?
Are ye able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They say unto him, We are able.
He said, where we are, man. They don't even know what they're asking for. It's that careful what you wish for spirit. Right? Can you read it?
Verse 23, And he saith unto them, Ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with.
Right? And indeed, you go drink of this cup, man. This cup of affliction, persecution, being hated. You'll drink of this cup, man. Shoot, even on another level, just being stressed out. Thousands of people following them. Everybody asking them questions. Hundreds of people wanting to be healed from them. Right? Being known all throughout Judea. Right? Can you read it?
But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them, for whom it is prepared of my Father.
Right, you see, that's he was kind of upset now. I mean, they kind of felt sorry for that, man. If you go drink of this cup, I don't know if you're going to be sitting next to me in the kingdom at the end of the day. Right, can you read it?
And when the 10 heard it, they were moved with indignation against the two brethren.
Right, so they kind of was mad, like, oh, I want to sit next to Yahushua. I want to sit. Why would you? I want to sit there, man. Right? I don't know, man. John, like, no, I'm a people. All these men, they kind of stuck. I'm getting there, man. They was mad at it, man. Right? Can you read it?
But Yahushua called them unto him and said, Ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and that they are great, exercise authority upon them.
Right, so when they in high roles and ranking, these men, they rule over their people with an iron fist, man. Right? When you look into Nebuchadnezzar and all these different men, right? Can you read it?
Verse 26, But it shall not be so among you, but whosoever shall be great among you, let him be a minister.
Can you read it?
And whosoever will be chief among you, let him be a servant.
Right, so when you're really a master, you're really more so of a servant to your servants at the end of the day. You're actually there to serve everyone else, man. Christ was there to serve people. That's what it's going to say in the next verse. Read it.
Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but ministered, and to give his life a ransom for many.
You see that? So he had to cut into him. Like, man, y'all want this preeminence and sit next to me in the kingdom and all this madness. You're thinking about how the Gentiles get down when they're in that high rank and position and it's all peaches and cream and you're getting fed grapes, man. No, we here to serve. I'm here to minister. Even me, the Son of God, man. Nobody here tending to me and doing X, Y, Z. I don't even got a place to live. Foxes got holes, right? I'm just kind of here, to and fro, doing my thing, doing this work, man. Serving, being a minister, healing thousands of people. You know how crazy that is? People dropping people in through the roof, right? Trying to get to Christ, man. Right? He had to go through that, man. So he had to come on earth to be a minister. He had to kind of flee, and people kind of stole the boat, kind of followed him, and they're like, be our king. Right? That's what he had to go through, man. So,
He trying to thrust him off the mountain.
yeah, I mean, all hell was breaking loose. Like, even just the aspect of people loving him and trying to always be around him and trying to get healed by him had to be stressful. Plus, people trying to kill you. So it's just a lot that's on you in that situation.
I was gonna make one point, letting back off of that. You know, the woman touched his garment, he said, hey, who touched me? And the apostles like, I don't know, Lord. There's so many people. Why are you asking us? You know, that can be stressful. Somebody just tugging on your shirt.
Yeah.
You look like, what the hell? What the hell? Yeah. So that's a lot. That's a lot of turmoil and stress for one person.
And then going through all that, when you reading the accounts, even though Yahushua was stressed, he still cared. He still showed compassion upon the multitudes. When you read that in Matthew. Let me see. Get Matthew 9:36.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 9, and verse 30. Book of Matthew, chapter 9, verse 36. And it reads, But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad, as sheep having no shepherd.
You know, Jake have a hard time trying to keep up with his siblings. You know, I'm gonna worry about my brother and sister. Yahushua was worried about 300 people, 500 people, 1,000 people, and that's the spirit that was on Paul. That was the spirit that was on all the leaders of the nation of Israel. Get 2 Samuel 23 and verse 1. It's the last words of King David.
It's the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 23, and verse 1. Now these be the last words of David. David, the son of Jesse, said, And the man who was raised up on high, the anointed of the God of Jacob, and the sweet psalmist of Israel said, The Spirit of the Lord spake by me, and his tongue and his word was in my tongue. The God of Israel said, The rock of Israel spake to me. He that ruleth over men must be just, ruling in the fear of the Most High.
What the Lord say?
Ruling in the fear of the Most High.
So people that rule over, or men that rule over other men must be just, ruling in the fear of the Lord. And you see that with all the accounts of all the leaders. They was all just. Well, Paul was just. The apostles was just. Yahushua was just in the church, you know. So I just wanted to bring out that point, and also another one. This is my last point right here. Philippians 2 and verse 3.
It's the book of Philippians, chapter 2, and verse 3.
Because even when you read Philippians, I believe the first chapter, or this might be the same chapter, or say the second chapter, where Yahushua, he didn't count himself worthy, you know, to have that name. You know, you got it.
It's the book of Philippians, chapter 2, and verse 3. Let nothing be done through strife or vain glory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves.
And that's what comes with being a leader. You can't be selfish. You can't be in conceit. You gotta be selfless. A lot of the leaders, Moses was selfless. They cared more about other people. You understand? You got it.
Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Hamashiach Yahushua.
And that's the point of the whole point of Philemon, because if Paul wasn't in that spirit, he wouldn't give a damn about Philemon. He wouldn't care about the brothers, you know. So you got it.
Verse 7. No. Yeah, that was it. Verse 6. Okay. All verse 6. Who being in the form of the Most High, thought it not robbery to be equal with the Most High, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant.
Of a what?
Of a servant.
Like the brother said, Yahushua, he came as the form of a servant. You know, the brother got a point.
1 Kings 12, 6 through 7.
So I just wanted to bring that out because when you read Philemon, and even when you read the in Galatians, and say bond or free, that's what it's going to. All right. The brother got it. After his point.
It's the book of 1 Kings 12. The book of 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 7.
6 through 7.
Verse 6. And Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived, and said, How do you advise that I may answer this people? And they spake unto him, saying, And thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, and wilt serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be thy servants forever.
Right, so the point is, this, let me back on what Kabashin, walking on brought out, you got men that's in high positions, which was serving. He a king. Regular Jake in their right, not in their right mind, they think, oh, king don't do nothing, he just sit back, call the shots, he a cool guy. But as a king, you gotta serve the people. Let me back on what he just brought out in 2 Samuel 23.
And that's why, real quick, this quick point, that's why they love David, because he showed himself before the people.
Yeah.
And so that's why David's name was so great amongst Israel. You know, he cared about the nation, about our people. You know, you gotta go. You gotta go to that.
You can come back. Let's bring to that precepts. We have to come back to Philemon. You can read 13 again.
It's the book of Philemon, verse 13. Whom I would have retained with me, that in thy stead he might have ministered unto me in the bonds of the gospel. But without thy mind would I do nothing, that thy benefit should not be, as it were, of necessity, but willingly. For perhaps he therefore departed for a season, that thou shouldest receive him forever.
So I wanted to touch on what he said. But without thy mind would I do nothing, that thy benefit should not be as a necessity, but willingly. He wanted them to willingly take them in, is what he's saying. Don't make it like a burden. Don't just do it for me. I'm vouching for him. But maybe he just had to depart for a season for y'all to get reconciled together. That's basically what he's saying. So he's saying, I want you to willingly do this. They even said that in, I think you read that in Hebrews 13 to 17, where it says you got to, willingly, serve the people, right? It can't be a burden to you, right? So he's saying, I want you to willingly take this brother back in.
I got a precept to let me back off that. You can bring out 2 Corinthians 9 and 6.
It's the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 6. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap bountifully.
Right, the more work you put in, the more work you'll receive, and reward too. You can read verse 7.
Verse 7. Every man according as his purposes in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for Yahweh loveth a cheerful giver.
The Lord loves a cheerful giver. Right, and that's the spirit that Paul is, trying to put out there. But you can go back to Philemon 1 and 16.
Verse 15. It's the book of Philemon, verse 15. For perhaps he therefore departed for a season, that thou shouldest receive him forever. Not now as a servant, but above a servant, a brother beloved, especially to me, but how much more unto thee, both in the flesh and in the Lord.
Right, now again, this doesn't change the state and condition of Onesimus' position and him being a servant. But he's just simply saying it with exhortation. Remember, at the end of the day, this is your brother. This is your brother in the Lord. And in the flesh, y'all Israelites, y'all should love each other equally. Although he may be a servant, that doesn't make him any less of a person, which is why we brought out Galatians 3rd chapter. Right? Because we all want in Yahweh Mashiach. Not now as a servant, but above a servant, a brother beloved. When this man returns back to you, you can't be in the spirit, the arms crossed. You back to work. Boy, you work for me, that's right. Look who came crawling back.
That's that preeminence.
Yeah, you're moving in preeminence. So when you receive him back with cheerfulness and gladness, receive him as a brother. See, Shalom, Salakia, let's work this out through the Spirit. I got you. Read verse 17.
Verse 17. And thou count me therefore as a partner, receive him as myself.
Right, and again, I want to link verse 17 back up with verse 9. Can you read verse 9 again?
Verse 9. Yet for love's sake, I rather beseech thee, being such a one as Paul the aged.
Right, I'm beseeching you, I'm coming to you as Paul the aged. This is Paul using emoji, right, to connect with Philemon. Right, this is Paul. This is me, man. This is me, Philemon. Right, Paul the aged, and now also a prisoner of Yahushua. When we jump back to 17, if thou count me therefore a partner, receive him as thyself. So he's using, every tactic and words of wisdom to encourage Philemon to receive Onesimus. Paul is speaking and vouching on behalf of Onesimus. He's being a peacemaker.
Blessed the peacemaker.
That's right. You continue reading.
Verse 18. If he hath wronged thee, or oweth thee aught, put that on my account.
What did he say?
Put that on my account.
Sounds very familiar. Because it's Moses, it's Yahushua. That's what a lot of leaders would do. Hey, put it on me.
Mediator.
That's the mediator. Put it on me. I got it. And hey, Onesimus could have stole $1,000, 1,000 shekels of gold from Philemon. Or maybe a ewe or a lamb. There's no telling. But Paul said, hey, put it on me. Paul was willing to go into debt for his brother. He was willing to just cut off his hand and his leg for Onesimus.
Right, brother.
Bring it out.
Verse 19. I, Paul, have written my own hand. I will repay it.
I will what?
I will repay it.
Go ahead.
Albeit I do not say to thee how thou owest unto me. Even thy own self besides life.
I'm going to read that again. I will repay it, albeit I do not say to thee how much thou owest unto me, even thine own self besides. Right? You said what?
Basically saying like he owed
Yeah.
Philemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, still old, but verse 20. Yeah.
Verse 20. Yea, brother, let me have joy in thee, a joy of thee in the Lord. Refresh my bowels in the Lord. Having confidence in thy obedience, I wrote unto thee, knowing that thou wilt also do more than I say. But withal prepare me also a lodging, for I trust that your prayers I shall be given unto you.
Right, I'm also coming to you too. Go ahead.
There salute thee, Epaphras, my fellow prisoner in Hamashiach Yahushai, Marcus, Aristarchus, Demas, Lucas, my fellow laborers. This grace of our Lord Yahushua Mashiach be with your spirit. Amen.
All praise to the Most High. And again, we know through the Spirit that Onesimus returned into Philemon, right? By the wise words of Paul. Can you bring out 2 Maccabees, the last chapter and the last verse?
It's the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 15, and verse 39. For as it was hurtful to drink wine or water alone, as the wine mingled with water is pleasant and delighteth the taste, even so speech, finely framed, delighteth the ears of them that read the story.
Right.
And here shall be an end.
So Paul finally framed his speech, right, wisely, so much so that Philemon received Onesimus back, right, and whatever wrong that was done, it was resolved, it was rectified. Can you bring us to 28:12? So there's a lot of lessons and points to grab hold onto and read of Philemon. Being a brother's keeper, being a peacemaker, right, forgiveness, how to be a wise servant, how to be a leader.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 28, and verse 12. If thou blow the spark, it shall burn. If thou spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both these come out of thy mouth.
Right, I brought this out for a reason, because, Paul could have made this all worse. Or Philemon could have wrote a letter back, Philemon part 2. I ain't taking it back, It could have been a whole lot of folly. But, if you have the ability to give a soft answer, to decimate, or to just kill the fire, to quench it, then do so, like it's in Proverbs 15:1. Do so with all thy ability. You don't always have to be prideful and angry and just gotta be right. Because again, Philemon could have definitely did that. Philemon part 2, hey Paul, you keep. You gonna see what I'm dealing with. He could have been that guy. So it just goes to show that, you know, forgiveness is deep, right? Being a leader is deep. Looking out for your brothers is deep. Praying for your brothers is deep. This is really an affectionate letter.
Precept. Luke 17:3.
Luke 17.
Yeah, Luke 17:3.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 17, and verse 3. Take heed to yourselves. If thy brother trespass against thee, rebuke him, and if he repent, forgive him.
Right, that's plain right there. So you rebuke your brother. If he repent, if he's sorry for that, you gotta forgive him. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 4. And if he trespass against thee 7 times in a day, and 7 times in a day turn again unto thee, saying, I repent, thou shalt forgive him.
Right, so that's plain. Right? So, Philemon, as a man of the Lord, he would have had to forgive Onesimus for whatever fault that they had, and they reconciled that. Right? So let me get Sirach chapter 27 and verse 21.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 27, and verse 21.
Right?
As for a wound, it may be bound up,
Right?
and after, reveling may be reconciliation.
Right?
But he that bewrayeth secrets is without hope.
You see that? So basically, this is going into how you can forgive your brother for a wound, right? For reveling, right? Getting on each other, XYZ. It's that bewraying the secrets kind of thing. Certain things is, the Lord said don't kind of follow after that person. But whatever Onesimus did, it wasn't to the point that they couldn't be reconciled.
Right. You can bring out Sirach 33 and 29.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 33, and verse 29. Set him to work as it is fit for him.
33 and 29.
Oh. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 33, and verse 29. But be not excessive towards any, and without discretion do nothing. If thou have a servant, let him be unto thee as thyself, because thou hast bought him with a price.
Right. He's still a brother. Only difference is money. You bought him with a price, and that's it. He's still your blood brother. He's still an Israelite.
That's right, brother.
Go ahead.
Verse 31. But if thou have a servant, entreat him as a brother.
As a what?
As a brother.
Go ahead.
For thou hast need of him, as of thy own soul.
You literally need him. That's why you can't treat your servant any type of way. You need him. You need him for help and to pay off your debt or whatever the case is. Or so you can pay off his debt. So you can get rectified, for the compensation. Go ahead.
If thou entreat him evil, and he run from thee, which way wilt thou go to seek him?
Where are you going to find him? If you're doing him so much evil. Well, he's my servant. Brother, you're wicked towards him. You don't need a servant. That's probably why he ran away. Right? When you read Exodus 21, the goal, or the main point of Exodus 21 is to, just wake up. I'm going to get a servant ASAP. I'm going to hurry up and get one so I can kind of do whatever I want. He's going to mow my lawn. He's going to make me breakfast. I don't have to do nothing.
It's really the opposite. It's really to help them.
Yes, to help them. You're literally helping your brother. That's one of the other main points. To help that brother get back off of his feet, or get back on his feet. Because again, brothers, throughout the ages, throughout the centuries, throughout all of mankind and time, people fell hard on their feet. And to get back up, they may have sold themselves to become a servant for money's sake. That doesn't give you liberty to be wicked and be vile towards him. It tells you in Exodus, you still got to kind of look out for him. You got to provide for him. Even if you got a wife, you got to provide for these people. So it's really being a brother and being your brother's keeper, even when you have a servant. A lot of this is conveyed in Philemon.
What's that?
Precept.
I got one. John 14 and 15, if I'm not mistaken.
John. Is it the friend?
Yeah. It's the book of John, chapter 14, and verse 15. If ye love me, keep my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he shall send.
So I want John 15 and 14.
It's the book of John, chapter 15, and verse 14. Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you.
15.
Henceforth I call you not servants.
Henceforth I call you not servants. So even when you have a servant, because we know we're the servants of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh. But he said, henceforth I call you not servants. So when you have a servant, you're not supposed to call him a servant. He's supposed to be your friend. He's somebody who you look at like yourself. They just in a bad position, and you look out for them in the position that they in. Continue, King.
For the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you.
And I call you my friend, because all things the Most High said that we are to do towards each other, I'm going to make it be known unto you. Hey, I can't do this to you. I can't do that to you. You understand? You can't do this to me. You can't disobey your master and your fellow servant of your brother, like Ephesians 6 goes into. Continue.
Verse 16, you have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you that ye should go forth and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit shall remain, that whatsoever ye shall ask of the Father in my name, he shall give it you.
Right, and that's spiritual, you understand. But when you serve your master on a low level, you're supposed to look at them as if they is the hierarchy, because they is the person who you have to look up to and respect. Continue.
Verse 17, these things I command you, that ye love one another.
Continue.
If the world hates you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you.
So we gotta love one another, man, even in the midst of the world hating us. That's it.
You got it. You get James 2 and verse 1.
It's the book of James, chapter 2 and verse 1. My brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Yahushua Mashiach, the Lord of glory, with respect of persons? For if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment.
Right? Because the reason why we all oppressed now or at the bottom of society is because we got too high. The nation of Israel, we got too high and mighty, and we got too powerful against our Lord. We start keeping the commandments. You start getting fed. Read Judges, right? So James is basically saying, like, you can't have respected persons because somebody has money. And you can't have respected persons and not like this person because he's poor. You know, you got it.
Verse 2, for if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and ye have respect to him that weareth the gay clothing, and say unto him, sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor, stand thou here, or sit here under my footstool.
You can't do that. That's off. You can't treat a brother bad because he's poor, and you can't treat a brother better because he's rich. That's a part of the law. That's in Deuteronomy 1 and 16. Right? So 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 20. And I got one last one.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse number 20. For you are bought with a price.
For we are what?
For we are bought with a price.
Not just a few of us.
For ye are bought with a price.
We are all brought with a price. The whole nation of Israel, Yahweh shall die for you. Right? You got it?
Therefore, glorify Yahweh in your body and in your spirit, which are God's.
And let's get so I can Acts. I believe it's Acts chapter. Where it say that Acts 20 and 28.
It's the book of Acts, chapter 20 and verse 28. Take heed therefore unto yourselves and to all the flock, over the which the Holy Spirit have made you overseers, to feed the church of the Most High.
To what?
To feed the church of the Most High.
So if you're a leader, you set up to feed the church of the Lord, right? To be an overseer. This is not talking about Esau's overseer. You cracking the whip, you beating your brothers. No, you treating them fair. You overseeing, like we just read in Hebrews 13 and 17, you overseeing their spirit. You want brothers to make it. That's what the Lord doing. Our master, Yahweh Shah. He set the blueprint. Not only did he set the foundation, he died for the nation of Israel. He showed integrity all the way up into the end. Right, you got it. All right. 28, you gotta finish on 28.
Church of God, which he had purchased with his own blood. Verse 20, okay.
Kinda. So the Lord, he purchased us to be a new creature with his own blood. He died for us to be new creatures. So we can't bring that into the truth, you know, ruling over brothers or treating brothers unfair because they poor, or vice versa, you know. Is it a little bit more on that, 29?
No, that was 28. That was on 28.
You was gonna bring out some more on 29 or no?
Yeah, I thought you wanted me to keep reading.
Let me see if it's more. I mean, you can keep reading.
Verse 29. For I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter among you, not sparing the flock. Also of your own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things, to draw away disciples after them.
So that's gonna happen, but ultimately the Lord, you know, that had to happen for the Lord to come in, and he gonna set the foundation in the kingdom of heaven. But you know, that's besides the point. Brothers got it.
You can get we'll quote some precepts. Get Titus 3 and 14.
It's the book of Titus, chapter 3, and verse 14. And let ours also learn to maintain good works for necessary uses, that they be not unfruitful.
Right. So, you know, being in this truth, whatever position you're in, really, whether you be a servant, bondman, leader, whatever the case, whatever the position, remember to maintain the good works. And that your works aren't unfruitful in this thing. Because at the end of the day, I mean, really, when the Lord comes back, all your works are going to be presented before him. And you're going to want to ask yourself, could I did it more? Could I have studied more? Could I have read more? As opposed to binge watching movies on the end. Or, you know, just I went to the basketball, I went to the gym all day. I could have studied a little bit. I walked my dog for 5 hours. I could have read a little. Yeah, walking your dog 5 hours, it's off.
Play with your dog for 2 hours.
Yeah, for 2 whole hours. Give the dog some break, you know? So, you know, at the end of the day, you gotta make sure that, like it says, that you learn to maintain good works. Remember that you gotta fast. Remember that you gotta read, study, build up your house. You know, occasionally hit up brothers. Examine yourself. Remember the good works and maintain them. And don't let Satan take your works. He took away the fact that you used to study. He took away the fact that, you know, you used to read hours on end. You let him take your crown. So maintain your good works at the end days. With that,
Yeah, go ahead. I just have to precept this.
with that, we're going to bid Israel Shalom. Our Ratzah Israel was edified through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemiyah Shai. The Sabbath service was Philemon. Kwame Yashua.
Kwame Yashua.
Kwame Yashua.